like to call the Onslow County Board of Commissioners meeting for Wednesday, June 21st, 2023 to order at this time. We'll ask our county manager, Ms. Sharon Griffin, to provide the invocation, followed by Ms. Janelle Galloway, our assistant county manager, leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Chairman Foster and Commissioners. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come before you and conduct the business of Onslow County. Lord, during these months of summer, guide our steps and strengthen our hearts. May our community be a place of joy, peace, and safety. Let all the joys of summer remind us of your goodness. Bless our citizens, first responders, and those defending our nation. May all we do this day bring you honor and glory. Amen. Now, with deep respect and reverence for the faiths, beliefs, and traditions of those gathered here tonight, please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to acknowledge all the elected officials that are here tonight. So if I miss you, please just raise your hand and I will come back to that. So I'll start here. I'll see the chairman of the Onslow County Board of Education, Mr. Ken Reddick, is here along with our superintendent, Barry Collins, and peeking his head around the corner from them is City Councilman Mr. Brian Jackson. And Mr. Rick Grant is here from the North Topsail Beach, alderman there, and Ms. Amiga Jarman, our Register of Deeds, and Ms. Melissa Oakley, Onslow County Board of Education. Is there anyone else that I have missed through the room? Sure. The man in the back with the badge. You know, if you're going to pick an elected official to leave off, it's not the sheriff. So in a few minutes, I'll have someone else to blame besides myself, but I appreciate Sheriff Thomas always being here as well. Thank you, sir. Other than that, I think we are good to go. We ask that all attendants please set your cell phones to silent or vibrate mode. The board offers the public one opportunity to speak during the meeting. Comments should be limited to no more than 5 minutes and may be on any issue upon which the Board of Commissioners has control. In accordance with the board's adopted rules of procedure, commissioners shall reserve responses, if any, for the commissioner comment period on the agenda. And I know that we have several that are commenting on the agenda item of the pool with the YMCA. So typically when there's more than 4 or 5, or more than 5, we try and condense that and let them agree to have a couple of representatives. But with that tonight, if we will be aware of the time, everyone come up and speak. I think it's necessary for everyone to speak on what they feel and hear from. So at this time, we need a motion to adopt the agenda.
Chairman, real quick, before we do that, I'd like to make a motion that we take item 4E of the agenda and not to remove it, but to move it to a newer date so that we can have a public hearing to hear what the public has to say on this issue. And I would request that we do it expeditiously. That's the motion I want to make.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I've campaigned 3 times on the need to bring a pool to Onslow County. We've been working on this agreement with the YMCA for months, and they've actually given us everything that we've asked for. Any objections that we hear today are going to be the same objections that we'll hear in 2 or 3 weeks or whenever we have a hearing. The agreement's not going to change. Procrastination's not going to make this decision any easier on any of us. We were elected to make hard decisions, and I think it's time to get on with this thing. I do not agree with amending the agenda.
Thank you, Chairman.
There's a big difference between campaigning on something and presenting it before a body for a decision. There have been, we have been working on this for a period of time, but also there have been statements out in the public. Some of those statements have been inaccurate. They've been misleading. The public may have been misled by something they heard. So I think it's important that they have a chance to mull this thing over and to come back and don't get the cart before the horse. That is, we need to hear from the public first before we deal with the MOU. So the public has a chance to provide feedback on the front end, not on the back end.
You know, Commissioner Bennett has stated what the purpose is, but I'm in full support of us going through tonight and moving forward with this project. It will be a positive input in Onslow County and our surrounding communities, and it'll support every aspect of everybody's lives, because everybody's going to benefit from this project. So I'm one that's wanting to vote on this project tonight.
My understanding, too, is that there are some timelines involved which could affect the final outcome of this, which has to do with funding from the state. And I think if we keep kicking the can down the road, that we're going to miss out completely on having the option to do it or not. I also, having a conversation with Royce last night about this, we are representative government, and I feel like the people elected us to represent them, and they have been doing that. This has been in the news, thanks to an article that was in the news, it's been on the radio. There's been plenty of opportunity, I feel, for people to be able to reach out to us and express their either support or concern for it at this point.
Well, let me, since everybody else spoke, since I made the motion, let me kind of clarify my position on this. Number one, I'm not against the pool, period. I think we do need a pool. But as an elected official, and for transparency's sakes, because I've been hearing that word transparency for the longest time from this board, that we need to be transparent, because $3 million, $6 million total with the school and then the funds with the city council, that's not our money. It's the taxpayers' money. And I keep hearing that we have a large fund balance that we can dip into. The fund balance is a large fund balance because we've been conservative with our budget. And we've been preparing for things that are happening like right now, hurricanes that are out in the Caribbean and stuff like that. We have needs for the school. But when you talk about transparency, and believe me, I toiled with this idea. I appreciate the work with the YMCA. I love the YMCA, to be honest with you. But I also know that I'm responsible for the taxpayers' money. And I think that those taxpayers have a right, if they want to come to a public hearing, whenever it is, as soon as possible, to voice their concerns. That's what we're representative government, and that's right, we represent the citizens of Onslow County. I represent 200,000 plus citizens in this county. Now, people say, well, why didn't you do that with Heinz Farm? Made a mistake. We should have probably. But that's water under the bridge. Okay? So we're trying to do this now. At least I want to do this now because I'm not comfortable with some of the comments that I see. I hear pros and cons. Some say more in favor, some say less. And I think it's important that it's going to affect the entire community, that our citizens have the opportunity to speak whatever they want to speak, whether it's yay or nay. They're given the opportunity, and then we can go from there. And I don't believe putting a public hearing on the tail end of this. You know, we probably should have done it sooner, but I think we need to have a public hearing to hear from all our constituents, because that's a lot of money. It affects everybody. Now, are we going to do this with every item? No. Yes, we are entrusted to make the hard decisions, but when we have an opportunity, especially when it comes to spending taxpayers' money, we need to have a public hearing and see what the public thinks. To me, that's important. And for me, I cannot comfortably say yay or nay. And I'm not saying I agree with it or disagree with the pool. All I'm saying is I need to have input from the public. I want to get a feel for the public as to what they think and let them help me make a decision and help the other board members on this board to make a decision. And to me, that's the fairest way to do this. So that, make no mistake, when we leave this meeting, about getting my words misconstrued, and I'll say it again, I support a pool. It's a question of how we are going to finance that, so let's make it real clear for all you note takers out there. Number three, I want to make sure that people understand that the citizens have a voice in this, and you can't get more transparent than having a public hearing. Because I've been hearing that we're not transparent enough since I've been elected the first time, and that really confuses me. We've been transparent as all get up as far as I'm concerned. And then one of the complaints here recently was that we weren't transparent because we didn't have public hearings on things that affected the county. Here you go. I heard you. I heard your complaints. I've digested it. I agree with you. And that's why I'm calling for this public hearing, because that'll help me and the other commissioners, if they haven't already decided, to make an informed, conscientious decision as to what we do, because that's $6 million. It's the county and the school board, but we give the school board that money. We give it to them for our funding formula. And that's very, very important to me. So you can say that I'm erring in the side of caution. That's okay. But I'd rather do that than be wrong. So thank you.
I have one other piece of,
We got to,
okay.
if Commissioner
sorry.
Buchanan was, okay.
I'm good.
So with that point, I think everyone has spoke,
Okay.
and we will move on. I have asked one question of Ms. Wan. Ms. Wan, if we did a public hearing, what is the earliest date that could take place?
That would be the July 17th meeting, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to reserve my comments to the actual item on the agenda and let everyone know my feelings on that. Any other discussion? I think that's all of us. So at this point, all in favor of removing this item from the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, slight sign?
Nay.
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 All right, the motion fails. The item will remain on the agenda. I need a motion for approval of the items on the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, before we
Yes,
get
sir,
to
I'm
that,
sorry.
I still think we need to adopt the agenda now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mr. Sim. Thank you, sir. We got so carried away with everything else, we didn't adopt the agenda. We just assumed we were moving on. So we need a motion to adopt the agenda this time.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We now have an agenda. I need a motion for the approval of the items on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are moving on now to public comment. Ms. Griffin?
Thank you so much, Chairman Foster and Commissioners. We do have 9 citizens who have signed up to speak during public comment period. I would remind everyone in the audience that just in case I mispronounce or get the name wrong from the handwritten notes that have been taken when people sign up, please state your name and your address when you come to the podium. You have exactly 5 minutes in which to speak. You do not have to take your whole time, but we do ask that if you take your 5 minutes, that you then politely take your seat at the end of the 5-minute period. In addition, we ask that you address your comments to the board as a whole and not to one individual commissioner. You may not defer any of your time to anyone in the audience or carry on a conversation with anyone in the audience. We do ask that you keep your language professional. At this time, I will call everyone up in order in which they're on the sign-up page. Our first speaker is Mr. Bob Dickerson of 423 Salt Creek Road.
Chairman Foster, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity. I'm not often going first, but I'm usually the cleanup hitter. But I'm not going to talk money tonight. Sit back and relax. I'm not going to ask for anything. I'm just going to talk real quickly about the requirement. For years, military families have had to go to Morehead City or to Wilmington to get a pool to access for their children, teach them how to swim, how to get some aquatic activities. This is a golden opportunity for all citizens in Onslow County to come together and support a pool facility where the children can have someplace safe to go, learn how to swim, be safe on the oceans. The last thing we want to do is read the paper at any given time where somebody's drowned because they didn't know how to take care of rip currents or take care of themselves in the water. Also, it's an opportunity if everything, alignment comes to pass, with leveraging everybody's money to make this possibility come to pass. The good opportunity with the VA coming here, wanting to co-share with everything. It's still in the infancy stage before it comes together with a contract, but that's a possibility that's going to help lower the cost for everybody's participation in this. The state is going to, it looks like it's going to support it, the city of Jacksonville, and we're just asking for your support to see where we're going with the opportunity to bring this to the citizens of Onslow County. Any questions? Told you I wasn't going to ask for a dime. Thank you.
Thank you so much, General Dickerson. Our next speaker is Mr. Joel Churchwell of 302 West Howard Drive.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm here to lend support to the issue that is before you, the YMCA, and my reasons are very simple. It is known by statistics that 2.6% of people that look like me, 5 through 9, are more likely to drown for the lack of opportunities and access to a pool. I happen to pastor a local church to wherein in 2010, the census data reflected that it was an urban distressed area. I believe that the same data reflects in 2020 census data. Of that 3.4 mile radius, there are still a number of children that don't have access to a pool. So as one of your local leaders, community leaders, I just hope that we can move forward to wherein the community that I serve that will have access to the opportunity to learn how to swim. And if transportation becomes a barrier, the Jacksonville Transit Authority can provide that loop to get those individuals to a place where they can learn how to swim. So if we can move this forward, it would be greatly appreciated. As I speak and stand here for my community, that is desperately needed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend Churchwell. Our next speaker is Ms. Dawn Rochelle of 224 High Hill Road.
They've set the standard for less than 5. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity. I stand before you in support of a pool initiative. And the first conversations that I was ever a part of as a community leader in this community was actually 3 decades ago, being a part of the Community Child Protection Team, where we were stressed at the number of children that would come before us that had drowned. And knowing the first responders that sat around the table, the social workers that were many times involved with the families, we knew that we wanted to make a difference, but we couldn't see really a path forward. No one had the money. Everyone was concerned about the liability. And at the same time, we knew that year after year, we would be presented either near drownings or drownings of children. As a career child advocate, I stand in front of you with a potential solution to bring a pool to this community that I'm pretty much raised in, was not born in, but certainly plan to spend the rest of my days in. Having raised a child here, I knew what it took as a mom of a then 4-year-old who had to ask a favor of a favor of a favor for someone that could help provide access for my child to have swim lessons. I didn't have that in southeastern North Carolina growing up. I wanted it for my child, and I recognized my privilege in being able to have a friend of a friend of a friend who could help me have access to a country club pool. When we think about what it really takes in order to serve all community problems, you have to have 4 prongs. It's one of the things that being a Rotarian has taught me. You have to have philanthropy, you must have business, you must have advocacy, and you must have government. In fact, it's the only thing that has solved our world problems. Drowning is something that we can have a path forward to be able to completely make a difference. We come before you, we know with an ask, but we also know that the YMCA, for which I am a founding member of in this community, and I also support as part of my family's philanthropy, it's a way forward for us to be able to partner in a long-term strategy that we asked for upfront initial investment, but we feel like being able to bring the prongs together that we currently have, we ask for your support in that. I would also say that co-leading the assessment process of bringing a YMCA to our community, the second time, if you'll recall the first time when we worked on this initiative, we didn't feel like we could go forward in that time in 2009. But when we led that initiative in 2018, General Dickerson and I had the opportunity to co-chair the assessment process. The number one need of our citizens, safety. It was actually the highest response rate of any Y assessment in the nation, according to YUSA at the time. The number one need that people asked us for was a pool. That was over 1,200 responses at that time. And I believe us bringing forward a way to have a public-private partnership will, for the first time in at least 3 decades that I've been a part of this discussion, have an opportunity to get it across the goal. Thank you so much for your consideration in protecting our children.
Thank you, Ms. Rochelle. Our next speaker is Ms. Misty Nagy of, I believe it's 926 Commons Drive.
All right. Hi, thank you guys for the opportunity to allow me to speak on behalf of my son. I'm a mother of a high school student. I'm a mother of 4, but my youngest child is he's a swimmer with the high school. And I feel that the pool is a big asset to our community. The reason is because there's so many reasons. I mean, it's so many I can't even say them all right now. But the main thing is the fact that our high schools have swim teams, just like the high schools have your soccer teams, your baseball teams, your football teams, and all that. And we do put money into that. The counties do put money into that for the schools. And it's a great thing, a recreational thing for our children to have for sports and to keep them fit and involved. My son is not any of those. My son likes to swim. So my thing is that he's been on the swim team for Northside this will be his 3rd year at Northside on the swim team. We have had to go several, their wetland practice, is only twice a week. Most practices, football, soccer, all of them is weekly, 5 days a week they have practice. We, as swim teams, you only get two days to be able to practice, and you have to be able to get on base to go swim. And that to me is not, it's just not there, just because of the fact that we're not all military. So having to be able to get that access to go on base is a real hardship for us as parents that are non-military. And so I just think that this would allow us to have that happen. We have Northside, there's several high schools. I know Northside, Jacksonville, and White Oak for a fact compete all over the state, all over the area for swim. And with that being said, we have to, use base access when we go to the meets. We don't have that experience as swimmers, and I think that really makes a difference. You can do all your dry land practices, but you need that water time. And by having this YMCA, I think the pool is going to make a difference. And I like the idea, even the safety feature when it comes to that. I think that is important. There's just so many health benefits. It can help our senior citizens. It can help just get the kids out and doing things. They've got, you guys have got nice water pad activities outside with the water pads that they have in the city and things like that. But the pool is something different. And I think I know we need it in this county. There are counties surrounding us that have them. And I don't understand why we can't have it. Onslow County is one of the best counties. I raised my children here. I plan on raising my grandkids here. And it's just something that is needed. And again, we don't have all that. That's always been the excuse is we have base access. We can go on the base and do it. And but not everybody has that access. So it really is challenging and hard to be able to do that for your children. And I think that's where I stand when it comes to the schools. I think it will be very beneficial to the school. So Board of Education, anybody else that agrees, I mean, that's just another helping hand with our children as well for education, because swimming is a good sport for that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ms. Nagy. Our next speaker is Mr. John Hudson of 102 Pecan Lane.
Good evening, Commissioners. Every time I come before you guys, I'm usually the only one who comes up and asks you to vote no on spending initiatives. So I'm coming before you tonight asking you to vote no on this initiative, and it's not because I'm against the pool. I think everything that every person standing at this podium tonight has said is going to be beneficial for our community. I think every initiative for the youth, for our student athletes, is going to be beneficial for our community. The concern I have is the county spending taxpayer dollars on this pool with the YMCA. I did some research, and there are some YMCAs that have done private fundraisers, been able to raise money to build pools. It's kind of a longer process, but Lock Haven, Pennsylvania, Knoxville, Tennessee, Greensburg, New York, Des Moines, Iowa, Washington County, Indiana, all have done private fundraising to build pools for their communities. One of the townships in the end didn't come to their fundraising goal and had to build a smaller pool. But they did it through private donations, through fundraisers, through benefit dinners, and things of that nature. Let me just say, I will volunteer to fundraise for the pool. I mean, if there's a benefit dinner, sign me up. I think it's going to be a great thing for us. But my concern, again, is the funding from the county. I stood before you guys last year when you guys were voting on increasing property taxes. And, I was told at the time that we had to increase property taxes in order to fund the inflation of the budget. I was told we had to increase property taxes to build schools. And so at this point in time, I'm asking, do we have the money to build pools? Because I was told we need to increase taxes to build schools. Do we have the money to build pools? And then some of the other concerns, with the YMCA, it is not going to be like Heinz Farm, which is open to the public. It's a county-owned facility, and you would have to pay a fee or a membership with the YMCA, so it's not going to be just able and use for all county residents. Last time I checked, I think it's like $70 a month for a family to join the YMCA, and I know there's going to be some fees for single use for the pools. But those are my concerns. I mean, my concern is the public funding. I feel like, we talked last year about needing to increase funds in order to meet our budget requirements. And now we're talking about $6 million between 2 years between the county and the Board of Education, which is paid by the county. So there's an extra $6 million that we're going to find in the budget that I was told the property taxes need to be increased for. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Our next speaker is Ms. Debbie Woolslagel of 288 Joey Court.
I think we need the pool too, but I do not like all that money going to it, but everybody else is going to do that. I've been attending these meetings for quite a while, especially the 6 o'clock one. I've been trying to see the good that you guys do, and granted, you do a lot of good, but sometimes the other things overshadow, like Heinz Farm. Just can't get that out of my head. Unfortunately, you make it clear, maybe not tonight, that the public comment in these meetings, we know that it's a requirement for you to allow us to speak, and I appreciate that. I'm sure some of you probably wish we wouldn't. But sometimes you make it pretty clear that you don't value our opinions and everything. And it's obvious that it might be a waste of our time to even come up here to speak, but I don't think so. I think that the more we speak out, maybe the more you'll listen. It sounds like transparency is starting to come with this pool thing, and that is awesome. I'm very happy that you're going to be a little bit more transparent. You've also made it clear, or at least one of you, that the only important things that you guys talk about is at the 11 o'clock, which sort of limits how many people can come and listen to you. I mean, unless they do it online. Since I am a retiree and I have control of my calendar, I can come here whenever. I just decide to. I will start going to the 11 o'clock meeting, because if that's where the important stuff is, that's where I'm going to be. You've made it clear, at least at the last meeting, that you don't even want your own colleagues to speak out and to try to find the truth. And you censured them. Shame on you. I and others are not going to go away. We are watching either at these meetings in person or online. Some of you berate the public for speaking out, and this is what has been done recently and has been going on a local radio station and berating when I come in here. So I can't wait to hear what you guys say about me and the others tomorrow. There's a lot of people who are afraid to speak up. I'm not. I don't blame them for not coming here, because you guys are sort of intimidating sometimes and maybe bullying and everything, where, especially when you go on the radio station and you talk about what people talked about, like as if we're just going to sweep it off to the side. Well, we're going to continue to come here, I am anyway, to keep you guys accountable, because I don't think any government agency should have as much power as you do with our taxpayer money. Fortunately, I'm not the only one that sees this. And I always come in here and I'm like a Debbie Downer, but I don't care. We have to hold you guys accountable. I urge the public to pay attention and come and hold you guys accountable. And don't be afraid to speak about your concerns. You commissioners have done, some of you have done a lot of shady things. And I'm here to make sure that we catch you the next time. And if we don't catch you, awesome. That means that you're turning around. I can't be silent and allow our local government to just spend money wherever. I'm concerned, just like the previous man. You know, that is a lot of money. Have we got everything else taken care of? I agree with the pool, but I don't always agree with all the money that's being thrown at it. And fundraising might be a good idea. And then once you put this money in, how much money are you going to have to keep going into it, like Heinz Farm? Every time I turn around, it seems like more money is being put in there. And I would really like to know what what do you call it? What's going on with it now? You know, what have you got done since the last couple meetings? I end with this. The public is starting to watch you very intently, as well as the county manager. And your actions speak louder than your words. That's the reason I started speaking up, and to bring your actions to light. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Thank you, Ms. Woolslagle. Our next speaker is Mr. Steve Wangren of 105 Whitby Court.
Good evening, Commissioners. I tell you, I am a founding board member of the YMCA for transparency, and to let you know that that's why I'm here to speak about the pool. And I'm going to talk a little bit of dollars and transparency, because that's what I wanted to do, to be on the public record. But I'd like to address Mr. Hudson's comments just ever so briefly. With all due respect to him, there are a lot of public pools, public partnerships with Ys across the country just as well. And unfortunately, in our county, we don't have the capacity, we don't have the industry like Knoxville, Tennessee. We don't have the ability to fundraise $15 million in our community. We just don't have that kind of industry and ability. And this is a great opportunity to partner and get matching dollars to make something happen in our community that, as you heard other speakers say, will have great impact on kids. That's my part on that. But on the dollars and the transparency, I just want to let the public and others know that we have spent a great deal of time with a feasibility study. The numbers weren't just pulled out of the air. They came from a national design firm that worked with us on coming up with a budget, if you will, that would give us an idea of what we needed to do to make this happen. And we've worked hard to do that. So the numbers and what we're asking for fits in that budget. And we know that there's going to be some stabilization that's needed, that initially it's not going to be a moneymaker, may not ever be a moneymaker, but it won't break even right away. So that's what we have built into our budget. And we will be very transparent with our budget and how that works. In the agreement we've worked on that you have in front of you with Mr. DeSelms, we've put in place measures that will provide the transparency, Commissioner Knapp, that you're looking for. We want that. We want to be as transparent as possible. The money will be held in trust probably at the county finance office. As construction started, we will bid the construction to make sure that we get the lowest or the best product for the price. Every pay application will be reviewed and approved by the architect and engineers. It'll be approved at the city and the county level if everybody's on board, and it'll be approved by the Y, and then the money will be released to pay the contractor. We want to make sure that your money is spent and used properly to benefit the citizens of Onslow County. And we're not going to spend anything excessively. There'll be a contract. It won't be exactly what we put that's in that feasibility study, because construction costs continue to change, and I know y'all see that with county projects and school board projects. But we will be good shepherds of your money. The owner of that property will be a 501c3 entity, a nonprofit. So it's not there for profit, it's there to provide financial assistance and help people that maybe can't afford the rate that it's going to be to pay to provide some assistance to do that. At the end of the day, we want you to know that we will be good stewards of the county, the city, the state, and the school board's money, because that is our goal as a nonprofit, to deliver a product that youth and our citizens can benefit from for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wangerin. Our next speaker is Ms. Jan Smith of 331 Running Road.
Thank you for considering the proposal to join a joint public-private partnership to bring a swimming pool to our county. It'll be a wise investment for the taxpayers and relieve the county of the burden of being an owner, operator, and employer. In the return, you will have recreation, exercise, and therapy year-round for all ages. A facility like this, in partnership with local government and the Y, can mean, when you bring the pool here, an improvement to our community health and our quality of life standings. YMCAs and YWCAs throughout the nation are well known for their expertise in managing swimming pools and swimmers. Local government, not so much. The facility can attract visitors, and it'll be a boon to local business. Veterans will have a close-by facility to receive therapy. And more than anything, at last, Onslow County residents will have a place that is reasonable and accessible for all ages, kids to adults, to learn how to swim and be safe in the waters of Onslow County. Thank you, and thank you for being stewards of the people. Our representatives, you take lots of phone calls, you attend meetings after meetings, you make the tough decisions on our behalf. You are doing swimmingly.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Our ninth speaker and final speaker is Mr. Billy Sewell of 205 Aldersgate Road.
Folks, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I got to go in front of General Bob Dickerson, who usually likes to play cleanup, so thank you for the opportunity tonight. just, you've heard all the comments, and then for the public transparency, the information that Brett DeSelms and Alex Irwin and John Carter with the city and I've had a chance to work on with Steve and our group over the last 60 days is all in here, with the exception of added information that everything that is being asked for by the county will also be offered to the city as well, and talking with them and presenting to them last night. So at the end of the day, this certainly is a public-private partnership, and just in interest, we were given $500,000 by the legislature last year, and it's sitting in the Onslow County coffers in preparation of a feasibility study and architectural plans. We have chosen not to use any of those dollars until we have successfully gathered all the partners in partnership together. And we've spent about $50,000 thus far out of our YMCA funds for this endeavor thus far. And we know going forward that this will cost about $200,000 to $300,000 a year. If you look across North Carolina and any neighboring states, any Y information, a pool is a loss leader from a retail perspective, but it offers so many other things. This week, my two boys, Charles and James, 7 and 9, are getting swim lessons in Carteret County because we don't have those offered here. And that's happened for the last 3 years. Hopefully in the next 2 years with our continuance, we will have that opportunity for every Onslow County student by the second grade will learn to swim free of charge at the Newberville YMCA Aquatic Facility Public-Private Partnership. And just as an idea, we all travel. In the last 3 weeks, 21 days since Memorial Day, 11 people within 250 miles of here have drowned. 8 of those were under 14. They did not have the opportunity, in some cases, so I've read through Google, to learn how to swim. As of last week on June 8th, a 5-year-old child in Edgecombe County drowned, and his mother is unconscious today. We can solve those problems. We're very blessed with the opportunity to have been able to purchase the 1940 from the River of Life Church. Hopefully with what we do in that facility with expanded YMCA services that will include pool activities, basketball, pickleball, preschool in the afternoons or the mornings, and then after school, 159 Cheney that we had the opportunity to be a partner with and take that building over for $1. That's going to become licensed daycare. The opportunity now, as I'm being told by many others, there are 5,000 needs today for childcare. We will start by the middle of August and offer childcare at 159 Cheney 5 to 6 days a week. We will have nights and weekend basketball. The middle part of the church will turn into a multi-purpose gymnasium so that we can get back to fitness activities that we only did for 3 months before COVID stopped us. There are so many opportunities. We gave $1.7 million back to the community since our first budget year in 2019 that did not cost the taxpayers or the citizens any dollars at all. For Young Men's Christian Organization talks about Christian principles for youth and adults every day that we're open. And we intend to expand on those services every opportunity that we can. We will be heartfelt, and I've been blessed to be in business for 35 years and a lot of years watching my father help build Golden Corral. We can't spend when we run out of money. We had 7 figures in the YMCA bank account when we started this endeavor the 1st of May. And we started with a budget of $300,000. We ended the year at $2.3 million, 1.6 with before school and after school, and then the 21st Century Grant. So I can tell you, this is nonprofit for the Sewell and the Eford family. We're giving back because I'm a turtle on a fence post. And I didn't get here by myself, and I opened the opportunity to continue to help this go forward. Thank you for our eventual partnership.
Thank you, Mr. Sewell. Chairman Foster and Commissioners, that concludes our public comment period for this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. Moving on to the general items. We'll start first with that memorandum of agreement for the Dix Crisis Intervention Center.
Yes, and we have Assistant County Manager Carrie Sanders to present that.
Good evening, Chairman, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. The item you have before you this evening is a memorandum of agreement for the Dix Crisis Intervention Center. This agreement is an agreement between Onslow County, Onslow Memorial Hospital, Trillium, the City of Jacksonville, Carteret County, Carteret Healthcare, and Craven County. And within the memorandum of agreement, it commits each of the participants or the parties to supporting the crisis center and participating in the oversight committee. So it is respectfully requested that the board consider approval of the memorandum of agreement for the Dix Crisis Intervention Center and authorize the chairman to sign on behalf of the county. And I'll answer any questions you may have.
Motion approved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Ms. Griffin?
Yes, we now have our Airport Director, Chris White, to talk about the Airport Runway Extension Program Task Order.
Good evening, Commissioners. In an effort to enable growth, increase capacities or capabilities, remove limitations and to enhance safety, the North Carolina General Assembly allocated $29 million in fiscal year 22 for airport improvements, focusing primarily on the runway extension program under the State Capital and Infrastructure Fund. RS&H engineers, architects, and planners were selected earlier this year to provide related professional services. The scope of services for this project includes design and bidding services for a 900-foot runway extension and parallel taxiway extension, and the relocation of navigational aids, modifications to the lighting and signage. Also included in the project scope is the design and bidding for the realignment of North Carolina State Highway 111, land acquisition, and a new airport entrance road. The attached proposed task order 3 for these services is in the amount of $2,331,933, and the proposed fee has been independently reviewed and found to be consistent. It is respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners consider approval of the RS&H task order number 3, and if approved, authorize the chairman to sign the documents on behalf of the county.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman and Commissioners, our next item is Home and Community Care Block Grant with Clay Calhoun, our Senior Services Director.
Good evening, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Commissioners. My item is the Home and Community Care Block Grant. This is an annual grant that I received from the Area Agency on Aging from the Eastern Carolina Council. This grant provides us opportunity for congregate nutrition, transportation, in-home services, and adult daycare. This year's grant total is $739,836. It does require a local match of $82,204. The local match has already been approved in the budget appropriation, and no additional monies will be required outside of the budget appropriation. I will answer any questions that you have about this grant. It is respectfully requested that the board consider approval of the grant from the Area Agency on Aging, Eastern Carolina Council, and authorize the chairman of the board to execute the contract documents.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Commissioners, our next item is the Onslow County EMS and Naval Medical Center Camp Lejeune Training Memorandum of Agreement, and Mr. Norman Bryson, our Emergency Services Director, will present it.
Good evening, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Commissioners. This item is an extension of a memorandum of agreement that we have with Naval Medical Center for their corpsmen to come out and work on our ambulances with our personnel to gain experience out in the field. This is a 6-month extension from a 2018 agreement. We are currently in a rewrite to update that agreement, but we feel like we need another 6 months extension with this before we would have the agreement, the 2023 agreement ready. We're respectfully requesting the Onslow County Board of Commissioners consider approval of this agreement between Onslow County EMS and Naval Medical Center Camp Lejeune and authorize the county manager to sign on behalf of the county. I'm here for any questions you may have.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just have a couple of questions, Norm. How often do the ride-alongs happen? Is it on a weekly basis, a daily basis?
It depends on the scheduling, ma'am. So we don't have it on a regular basis and when it may occur, but we'll still get a couple of personnel come out 2 or 3 times a month and out on the ambulance with our personnel.
And they've given you feedback that this is really beneficial for them?
Yes, ma'am. It has been very beneficial. It's part of our partnerships that we've been doing with Camp Lejeune and Naval Medical Center for years because it helps their personnel to gain more experience in the field. So if they get deployed, they've worked with trauma in the field with our personnel, and it gives them more experience.
Right. Well, thank you.
Any further discussion?
Are they beneficial to us? Are they able to perform?
They work alongside with our personnel.
Okay.
Now, what I think you wrote in there was that it provides the opportunity for leadership and training for our staff.
Yes, back and forth between.
Yeah.
It's beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Our next item is the YMCA Aquatic Center, and County Attorney Brett DeSelms will present this.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board. The New River YMCA intends to construct an approximately 38,000 square foot aquatic center that will include an 8-lane competition pool, a warm water therapy pool with 0 entry. The estimated cost of the aquatic center is over $14 million. The YMCA is requesting $3 million from the county, $3 million from the city of Jacksonville, $3 million from the Onslow County School Board, and $5 million from the state. The $3 million from the county would be paid over the next 2 fiscal years. So this fiscal year, 23-24, at $1.5 million, and then next year, fiscal year, so 24-25 at $1.5 million. The following would be required as part of any contribution being made on behalf of the county. The final conceptual plans and construction costs will be submitted to and approved by the Board of Commissioners. Onslow County schools, swim teams will be able to utilize the pool for practice and meets at no cost. All Onslow County second graders enrolled in the Onslow County Public Schools will be able to participate in the Safety Around Water program at the Aquatic Center free of charge. Onslow County Parks and Recreation Department will be able to utilize the pools at no charge up to a maximum of 2 hours per week for programmatic purposes. Additionally, the pool will be available at no charge for Onslow County senior games, park and recreation summer day camp field trips, and parks and recreation spring break camp field trips. One item that was added as well, it was not in your packet but has since been added to this, would be that Onslow County Swift Water and Dive Team would have access for 4 hours a month, every month of the year at no charge for training purposes. The Aquatic Center will be open to citizens of Onslow County free of charge at least 3 hours per week at times set by the YMCA. The Aquatic Center would also be open for public usage subject to a daily user fee at any time the Aquatic Center is open to its members. Of course, that'd be subject to pool availability. The Aquatic Center would have to be owned and operated by a nonprofit corporation. The agreement to provide the $3 million would be contingent on the City of Jacksonville, the Board of Education, each providing $3 million towards this project, as well as the state contributing $5 million. It is respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners consider whether to approve the proposed memorandum of understanding, which, if approved, would signify the county's intention to contribute $3 million to the YMCA. If the MOU is approved, it is respectfully requested that the board authorize the chairman to sign the MOU on behalf of the board. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes, Mr. DeSalms.
Mr. Price?
Motion to approve.
We need to go, do we need a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Price?
Well,
Commissioner?
he asked questions. It was stated on the radio that the county would own the facility last week. If this facility were to go under, what do we have?
So
what are we holding?
We won't own the property. So what will happen is that property currently consists of a church and some vacant land. The vacant land is where they intend to construct the aquatic center. That vacant land would be subdivided from the church. So it'd be on its own parcel. And we would have a security interest, much like a mortgage or a deed of trust, so that if they ever, and it's a 99-year commitment, if they ever did not adhere to their end of the bargain, they would have to repay the county the $3 million. If not, we could foreclose on that property.
Okay, another question, since you asked for questions. Mr. Wangren suggested that it might be a greater cost than what is currently listed of 14.5 or whatever, that the cost might even be greater. Well, who will bear the burden of that cost?
All the county would be doing in this is committing the $3 million.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and go into my statement then, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Well, a key point of clarification is people talk about wants and needs. And I guess I look at that a little bit different way than other folks. Onslow County began in 1734, as a county. I see no historical evidence that they started digging a pool first thing. They did bring in a sheriff. That is a constitutional office. Sheriffs were a legacy of the crown, of the British rule, so sheriffs were commonplace. Counties did recruit doctors with incentives with cheaper land, so they were concerned about medical care. We'd call it first responders, I guess. Education, they did try to entice teachers to settle in communities by promising them that the community would provide for their basic needs of shelter and provisions. Social welfare, churches did their responsibility. They ran orphanages, they ran hospitals, they ran what we would call homeless shelters. So those are the needs. A desire for a pool is a want. It is a good want, perhaps, not saying it's not, but it is a want. It's not a need. So the language is important for me whenever I talk about something. What's the difference between a need and a want? The things I talked about there that we started with as a core of who Onslow County was, those were needs. What we're talking about now are wants. Last year's budget, as Mr. Hudson indicated, we increased taxes from a revenue neutral rate to roughly, I think it was 10.65 was the number. It's either 10.55 or 10.65. I think it was 10.65. But either way, we get the point. So 3 cents was set aside for schools, 3 cents was set aside for fire departments, which was a fire tax, and 3 cents was set aside for pay raise. So in none of that discussion did we talk about the need for pools. There was never uttered a mention of the word. We did talk about the need for a healthy fund balance ever since, and I concur. Those are things that we need to have a healthy fund balance for emergencies, for hurricanes. If I recall, Florence, the cost of trash pickup was between 9 to 11, I think it was 11 million, the final payout that the county had to pay up front. So that's significant. So we do need a strong fund balance. We do need to borrow at low interest rates to build new schools. So we need a good credit rating. So we have a good credit rating right now. I think it was, what, A+? Was that correct?
It's one notch below AAA. So yes, it's AA minus, I think is the. Did you hear that? AA1?
Okay, that sounds pretty good to me. I'll take that. All right, so that's a strong credit rating. Okay, but we did not mention the need for a pool. And we got to bear in mind that $6 million, you can't even say that fast and it not sound like a lot of money. That represents nearly 4.5 cents on the property tax rate. Nobody mentioned raising property taxes to fund a pool back then. Yeah, there was no mention of that. We will not own it, despite the misleading statements of the previous week that the county would own it. We will not own it. We can't use tourism money to fund this effort. If we could, I would consider being on board. I might jump on that wagon as it rolled through town. But we cannot use tourism money because it is not going to be large enough to hold regional meets or those type size meets that will qualify for having stands for fans and that type of thing that would allow us to entice folks to come to Onslow County for that purpose of coming to that pool to see an event. Also, we need to bear in mind that this is $6 million, not $3 million commitment from the county, because the Board of Education has no taxing authority. They get their money from us. Okay, so we're talking about $6 million. Once again, it's nearly 4.5 cents on your property tax rate. If the Board of Education can contribute $3 million, we may need to go back and reevaluate that funding formula, because we must be giving them too much money. Because all I've heard about is we are underfunded. We don't have enough money. And yet, now we're asking the schools to dish out $3 million whenever they say they don't have that money. They don't have enough money. They're underfunded is what I'm hearing. Maybe I'm hearing things wrong. But I thought I heard that they were underfunded. Okay? So if this does pass and the Board of Ed says, yeah, we're going to give $3 million, I'm going to ask, what are we doing? Yeah, why are we giving $3 million extra to the Board of Education over 2 years whenever they can throw $3 million at a pool? If we have $6 million just sitting around that we can throw into the deep end of the pool, we should be giving taxpayers a tax cut so they can decide if they want to build their own pool. So they can decide if they want to fill up the F-150. So they can decide if they want to buy ribeyes instead of sirloin. So they can make those decisions. Individual, let the individual make the decisions. I feel like if we were to approve this, I'd need to issue apology cards, and I don't have that many apology cards to all taxpayers in Onslow County. And so that's a big thing with me. It tells me that we have overtaxed our citizens if we go into this project. That's what it tells me. We've overtaxed you folks. And if that's the case, I apologize. I didn't vote for that tax increase a year ago, but I'd still apologize for it because I'm on this board. Okay? We need to decide what is the necessary role of local government. Is the necessary role of local government to partner with a nonprofit to give them money to build a pool? Is that an essential role of local government? I submit to you it's not an essential role of local government. Many of you talk about Heinz Farm, and I'm not afraid to talk about Heinz Farm. Heinz Farm represented $350,000 from the general fund. That was 0.25 of 1 cent, a quarter of 1 cent on the tax rate. And people are still angry about Heinz Farm, even though it was $350,000 from the general fund. Yes, it was $950,000 from tourism, but other folks from other counties paid that tax, unless you stayed at an Onslow County hotel. Now, if you stayed at Onslow County hotels, which is probably very unlikely, I'm probably the only one that rents a hotel to watch the NFL draft because I don't have cable. There's probably very few of us folks out there. So very few people probably paid into that tourism tax as an Onslow County citizen. So Heinz Farm was $350,000 in general fund dollars. We're talking about $6 million. Let that sink in general funds. Represents 4.5 cents on the tax dollars. It's been my experience that when you're on the wrong road, you take the nearest exit. And I'm out. Mr. Chairman, I'm done.
Any further discussion?
Yes, sir, definitely. Thank you, Commissioner Price. I appreciate that. You know, the citizens have been asking for a pool for a long, long time, as we've heard here today. For 7 years as a commissioner, some of the commissioners sitting here we've discussed pools, and it's been, we don't want to have to operate a pool. We're worried about the liability of a pool. We're concerned about the upkeep of a pool. We're concerned about maintenance. We think the capital expense will be too much. This MOU addresses every one of those issues. And the fact is, we're scheduled to earn $3.1 million in interest on our fund balance next year. So if you don't want to spend taxpayer money, let's spend the interest on our fund balance next year instead of taxpayer dollars. That's easy to do. You've heard what's in this MOU, and what the school board does and what the city does has nothing to do with what we do here tonight. What we're doing here tonight is we're voting on an MOU for Onslow County. And it's been stated that if any of these other entities back out, then this isn't going to happen. But we have an opportunity today to be leaders in Onslow County, to bring something to Onslow County that is very much needed in our community. And let me just finish with a little bit of personal note here. My children grew up here. They didn't learn how to swim in Onslow County. Thank God they didn't drown. My granddaughter just finished the 2nd grade. She did not learn how to swim in Onslow County. My grandson, in 2 years, is going to finish the 2nd grade. If we don't have this pool, he probably won't learn how to swim in Onslow County. And 2,000 2nd graders every year are going to finish Onslow County schools and leave without learning how to swim. If we put this off for 2 more years, 3 more years, expect the YMCA to raise $15 million. Who knows how many years it'll be, and how many thousands of our 2nd graders will not learn how to swim. So, you know, you gotta weigh you gotta have a little bit of weight here. What's best for our community? You know, this money, I hate to spend money as bad as anybody else, but this is something that we really need, and this is an opportunity that will not come along again in the future. We need to take advantage of what we have opportunity right now. That's all.
You know, we've been talking about a pool since I've been on this board from different aspects. As a county commissioner, it's our responsibility to go find out what the public is thinking about it. Over the past 9 months, I have personally talked to 133 people in reference to this pool. I've only had 7 people that had concerns. 24 were senior citizens that said that they need it for their rehabilitation purposes to help them to get a better lifestyle. This is going to be with our VA, our military personnel, our retirees that's in VA. It's going to be an asset to this community. But most of all, it's going to be an asset to our young people. It's not only the swimming pool. The YMCA is going to be a foundation for our future leaders. And I can tell you, the sheriff that's sitting back of that room, if he sees that they've been to the YMCA, may not be big now because they're young, but that's a development for a child to be better, to bring their potentials out. YMCA does that. I was privileged to leave Onslow County and go to Akron, Ohio. I walked 26 city blocks 3 days a week to go to the YMCA. The YMCA is a building institution that makes lives better. I've heard it all across this county. There's nothing for our young people to do. We need to get them off the streets. The YMCA is going to get them off the streets. And I commend the leadership in the community that wants to bring an asset to where we need it. You go out to our parks and recs now. They work every day to make lives better. I go out there and sit with my grandchildren just where they can play on, the different things that they have. This will be an asset for Onslow County, and this is one thing that I'm proud to vote for.
I'm going to jump in before I get, well, I have a chance, I should say. And rather than duplicating everything that both Royce and Walter have said, because I echo both of them, the one thing I do want to say is I am very grateful for the community leaders who have put their necks out in more ways than one and done the legwork to create a solution that I think benefits everyone in the community, young and old. We have one of the youngest populations, or the youngest population in the whole entire state, and swimming is a critical element in children's safety, as we've heard. I grew up in California and learned, not at a Y, but at my high school, because we had pools all over the place. And it really stunned me when we moved here in 2011 to know that a county that is actually on the ocean does not have a pool to access to make sure that people here know how to swim and can be safe in the water. So to address something that Robin said earlier about the transparency. One thing that I asked Ms. Griffin to get for me earlier was a Parks and Recreation Master Plan for Onslow County, and it's dated October 2021. And in this, I just want to say, and this was more than 100 people, there was actually multiple ways of surveying people. Some were in person and groups of people that they talked together to gather information. Another was a written survey that was collected. And I just want to say the needs study came out. Their goal was to have 400 completed survey. The goals were exceeded actually, with 426 residents completing the survey. We paid for this, by the way. This was quite an extensive kind of survey. And the people who did the survey did some really great background to legitimize it. One thing I have to say, facility needs and priorities. Residents were asked to identify if their household had a need for 30 recreation facilities and rate how well their needs for each facility were currently being met. Based on this analysis, this group institute was able to estimate the number of households in the community that had unmet needs for each family. Number one was indoor aquatic center, which represented 24,761 households out of the 64,386 households in Onslow County. So that, I think, is a huge number to show that there's people here that really do want this facility. Other than that, priorities for facility investments, besides walking and biking trails, number two was an indoor aquatic center, which fell only number two by a few points, described as something that was a high priority for our area. I do not see a downside to this. Yes, it is taxpayer money, and all of us, feel like that's something to definitely consider. However, the benefits that I think that this opportunity can offer us far outweigh the cost. I think it's an investment, and I think we're lucky to know that we could give the capital to someone who will take over the headache of it for us and bring a real great asset to our community in so many ways, from swimming to just hanging out. Just a quality of life, which I know was one of our goals originally when we had our budget workshop earlier in the year. So I'm completely for this, and I hope that we will show our support not only for the citizens here, but also for our greatest asset here, which is our military families and the veterans. Thank you.
All eyes on me.
You were Commissioner Buchanan. I don't.
Oh, no, I just, go ahead.
There's not a whole lot to say. You got two commissioners sitting up here that voted against the budget. Voted against the budget. Now they want to give $6 billion away. I just don't understand it. It doesn't even compute with me, and it should not compute with our taxpayers. I'm not going to say much more. I'm against it. I already said no a while ago. I'm going to say no again. It's just the way it is. There's too many ifs, ands, or buts here. And the other thing is, they've come back before, and they'll come back again. Who's going to keep the upkeep up? It's going to come back to the taxpayers. You can get prepared for that, because we gave away $100,000 to the YMCA before, and he said he would not come back for any more, and he came back for $50,000 more. So there's a lot of things there. There's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts. That's all I'm going to say about it. I think what's needed right now is to call a question and get this, move on.
I just want to make my comment real quick.
We can call the question, but Commissioner Knapp, myself, got to speak first.
So I think we're missing the point here. I'm not against the pool. Let me say that again. I am not against an aquatic facility. What I'm concerned about is paying for it and how we're going to pay for it. I grew up as a lifeguard in my teenage years. I was a diver off the diving board. I was on the swim team, baseball, whatever. I hung out at the pool. Of course, I lived on base overseas, but that's what I did. So there's no question about the YMCA and detention. So don't even get confused that we're against the YMCA, because I know how that'll spin. Not against the YMCA, not against the pool idea, not against the aquatic facility. I'm a veteran as well, and I believe in the Veteran Affairs Office, and veterans could benefit this, elderly people. That's not the issue. The issue is it's taxpayers' money. And I have questions about it, and I feel uncomfortable making a firm decision until I speak and let citizens come to a public hearing to express their opinion. All of you that came up for it, I appreciate your opinion. I really do. I sat back and listened. But I also listened to the man back there, I think, what's your name, John? Jack? I can't remember. The one that came up and talked about, he's for it as well. But he was concerned about the payment method, as I am, and I should be. So what's tough for me is, you know, we have the healthiest fund balance that we've had in numerous years here in Onslow County. And we did that because we have strong leadership at the county manager position, assistant county manager positions, and supervisor and department heads. Okay, it's because of their leadership to fit within the parameters of what we prioritize as our budget goals. They did this. And you may ask, how did they do this? Cutbacks, not giving everything that certain departments are in need of. They need 12 deputies, we cut it back to 5. We have DSS workers. They need a lot more help there, because I know, being involved with DSS in my law enforcement career, I know how busy they are. But they need people. And people need to be hired and trained, and they need to have a salary, just like the detention center and the Sheriff's Office of Public Safety. I've got people at the Sheriff's Department that they're overworked. I know that from firsthand experience, because there's not enough people. Those are the concerns that I have, and I wanted the public to hear those concerns, and I wanted the public to chime in on it. I think it's right. You know, we talk about, one thing that's for certain with me, you always know where I stand on an issue. I'm going to tell you up front how I feel. I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm going to explain my thinking. You may disagree with me. That's fine. I can agree to disagree. I disagree with the chairman all the time. Yeah, I do. But we're still friends and we talk. But most oftentimes we agree on certain issues. It's very hard for me right now not listening to the public. That was my whole point of this. And I'll reiterate it again. I'm not against the YMCA or an aquatic facility. Not one bit whatsoever. But I question the payment method and how we're going to do this. And I need more input from the public. Because we are good stewards, as the lady said, we are good stewards of the money. We try to be. And I thank you for that comment. But like I said earlier, we represent 200,000+ people in this county. I can't hear from all of them. I know that. But I got to at least make an effort to give them the opportunity to voice their concern and to see what they're thinking. Because what this certain group here is thinking is not what this group is thinking, and vice versa. Depends on what demographic you're talking to. But I need it for me so that I can talk and listen to some people, because I do sit up here and I listen to every speaker and I take detailed notes as to what they said. And sometimes the speakers have changed my mind on certain issues. They really have, if you watch what I voted for on some rezoning issues. But it's tough for me right now with not having the opinion of the public, not having the input of the public, and not allowing the public to have an opportunity to speak their mind. Whether it's yay or nay, that's what bothers me. And that's just how I feel about it. After this meeting is over with, we'll take a vote and we'll still be friends. At least I hope we will, and we'll go on our merry way and come back and do this again at another meeting on another topic. As you can see, there's division on this board about this, this vote, but there's not a division on the board, if that makes sense. We just have a division on this particular vote. So my own conscience, you know where I stand, and I think what Billy and the YMCA advisory group has done has been fantastic. Nothing short of fantastic, okay? But I still want to hear from the public, and that's how I view it, and I'm still concerned about the payment method, and I'm worried about touching our general fund and potentially putting into danger. And that's all I have to say about it. And, you know, everybody has their opinion, vote your conscience. But like they used to tell me in law enforcement, make a decision, right or wrong, make the decision and move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. So if it's not evident to everyone in the room, there's 3 people that are supporting this. There's 3 people that are against this. So now I have to tell you where I stand. And I'm okay with that. One thing that popped in my mind was, I wonder what the population in Onslow County was in 1734. That's just something that come to my mind. Things that may have been in the budget, that's probably in the budget now because we move forward. Things change. I heard mention that if it was tourism funds, I'd be there. At first, we're hearing that we can't do some of the things that we could do at the Y that would not allow us to use tourism funds. Well, maybe if we hear back from the folks that are planning on doing this and they're hosting regional meets and they're bringing people here, then maybe there's an opportunity to bring tourism funds. Fund balance is healthy because we've been very conservative, so we can have the opportunity to one day to do some really good things in Onslow County. I get aggravated with the people in Raleigh for sitting on a $5 trillion fund balance or rainy day fund. When we have teachers that are scurrying out of the state when they could send money to them to bring them into the state. I don't think we're in the business of having enormous savings accounts, but we should be in the business of having a very healthy savings account to take care of needs that we might face. But also feel like we need to look at things that are needed in communities. See, I grew up and walked out the back door and jumped in the swimming pool, along with a lot of my other friends because they didn't have a swimming pool. I was lucky. I could swim very well because I started it probably when I was about 4 years old because my daddy threw me in the middle of the pool and I had to swim to the side. And I learned. There's a lot of things in this pool that I feel like are fantastic. And we start talking about things that tax dollars fund and the access for people. But one thing that come to mind with state funds and state tax dollars is the North Carolina Wildlife Commission and the boat ramps that we have access to that we don't pay for. And probably the only people that are using those are spending anywhere from $20,000 to $100,000 on a boat. But those are things that people wanted. Those are part of the life that we want to live, because on those boats that go out are others that can't afford those boats but still get the recreational benefit of going out with friends that were fortunate enough. Things that make me look at this and think, man, this is pretty good. First, the question of who owns the land. I've gone through and I've read this. County has a security interest. We've already got that. Things go south. And see, I don't like that terminology. People say when things go south as if going south is a bad thing. If going south is a bad thing, then why does our population keep growing? So we're not going to say going south, because if it's going south, then there's good things happening. We're going to say if things go wrong or go belly up, we have a certain amount of time to get our money back before we foreclose. It's even written in here when they subdivide the property, that part of that is going to ensure that if it happens to go bad and we become the proud owners on our own, that they will still have a parking lot and stormwater runoff and other things that are necessary for us. If we become the proud owners, it's all intact. We don't just get a building with a pool and the land around it. So there are things in there that secure us. Even when I was growing up, we could all jump in the car, go through the gate at New River Air Station and enjoy the big outdoor pool. How many non-military people can get in the car, get a visitor's pass, paper visitor's pass, stick on their dash and go enjoy one of the military pools? We have a long wait just to get a pass to go on board to watch a high school basketball game or football game or baseball game. Things have changed. Pools, parks and rec are all over the place. Some are fantastic. They all have something in common for the most part. They charge a fee. And the opportunities I see are senior games are going to be able to utilize this. Spring break camp for Parks and Rec. Summer camp for Parks and Rec. Our swim teams will actually have a place they can spend more than 2 days preparing for a meet. Something that was added to it that I think was mentioned, I'm not sure, I think Mr. DeSalms did, but swiftwater rescue training has been added to that our EMS can do. Our fund balance dropping by $1.5 million this year and then dropping by $1.5 million next year. And then what we put in the fund balance and the interest that we get if we drop our rating, I don't think $3 million over the next 2 years is probably going to have a major negative impact on our credit rating. But I'll tell you this. The thing that made me change my mind from a 60-40 support and pushed it in favor of doing this is the fact that the second graders get to go and learn how to swim and get aquatic and water safety by the time they leave second grade. And I'm going to tell you a story that's personal to me, and some people may not like the fact that I share this story, but I'm going to share this story because this is why. You want to know why I support this? This is where I'll end it. I was sitting in my office at Southwest High School about 2.5 weeks before graduation in 2013. A young man come to my office, not because he wanted to stop in and see me, because I called him to the office. He had some things he needed to take care of before he walked across the stage as a 2013 graduate of Southwest High School. He walked in the door and I said, son, you got to do these things so you get to step on that field at that college next fall to participate at the next level, regardless Division II, III, NAIA, Division I. But it was college and an opportunity to move forward. As he was walking away from a door and I said, you need to get this done. He turned back to me and he looked at me and he said, I got you, Mr. Foster. I said, all right. About a week later, I'm watching a chorus concert or band concert, and my phone rings. I look at it, I deny it. 45 seconds later, the phone rings again. I look at it, and I deny it. And I think, it's kind of weird. Those two people would call me within a minute of each other. Phone rings a third time, 30 seconds later. I get up because something's happened. And I find out that we have a student that is currently in a search and rescue situation at North Topsail Beach, 2 weeks from graduation. I make a couple of phone calls to find out and verify if this has actually happened. I get off the phone. I can tell you, Sheriff, exactly which deputy I called. He said, Tim, I'll get back with you. 2 minutes later, he called me back. He said, buddy, I hate to tell you this. It's no longer a search and rescue. It's a search and recovery. I'm going to tell you tonight, that young man that told me he got me, I'm going to tell you tonight, I got you tonight. Because if one life is saved, it's worth that $3 million. And that's what matters to me. I may get vilified because of it. But I tell you this, I'd rather die with hope than live with doubt. And tonight, I hope we save lives and we make a difference, and our return on investment is the greatest return that we'll ever face on any decision that we make. With that being said, we'll call the question.
Point of inquiry, Mr. Chair.
If you want to have it, I don't know that we called the question. Do we move on, or do we go with a point of inquiry?
I called the question.
Okay, there we go. Call the
Need a
question.
second? We need a second.
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 I request a vote, Mr. Chair.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of calling the question signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed to call the question signify by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
Do we even know what we just voted on?
No, I don't know what we voted on.
Well, we say aye to both
I
of them
have no
regardless.
idea what we voted on.
Okay, I'll go back to this. I'll help us out here. Commissioner Buchanan has called the question. Commissioner Price has asked that we vote on that. So our motion is, do we support the call to question? All in favor of call to question signify.
I think that's not a rule of order.
I
That's
don't-
out of order.
No, because
It's correct. If there's a call or question, then, and there's a second on that, which there has been, that's to close the debate. Now, 2/3 are required to stop everything and vote on the actual question.
okay, so
We need 2/3.
okay, so call the question's been made. All in support of calling the question signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed to call the question signify by saying aye.
No, I oppose to call the question.
Thank you, sir. So the call to question has gone through, so we're moving on to vote at this time. All in favor of the motion signify, the motion is to move forward with the $3 million
The MOU.
to,
Yes, sir.
the MOU. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion carries 4-3. Ms. Griffin, I think we are ready to take a break. So before we move on to the next thing, we're going to take a break.
10 minutes, 5 minutes?
10 minutes so I can get some water.
Good Lord.
So I can call the question. We'd like to call the Onslow County Board of Commissioners back to order at this time. We appreciate everybody's involvement and this board's involvement with everything, and we will move forward and do the business of the people. Ms. Griffin?
Yes, our next item are our budget amendments, and our Finance Officer, Andrew Prince, will present.
Good evening, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Commissioners. The following budget amendments for B66 and B67 are what I have for you today. The first is to increase adoption promotion revenue, which is a separate item carrying its own separate fund balance. It has roughly $250K in it, to increase that for some expenditures that occurred at the end of the year. The second item is the Securus grant revenue was included in the fiscal year 23 budget, but the associated expenditures were not budgeted. This amendment is to budget those expenditures correctly related to the grant revenue. It is respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners consider the listed budget amendments. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
We have a motion. Second. Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Sir. Ms. Griffin, how about taking us through a long list of appointments?
All righty, we're going to do 8 sets of appointments. Our first one is the Community Child Protection Child Fatality Review Team, which reviews records of all fatalities in Onslow County, as well as any cases, these are child fatalities, as well as any cases that may be receiving child protective services in which we believe there may be gaps in service. The following individuals have submitted a citizen participation application for appointment, and these applications are on file and have been certified by the clerk's office. Cassandra Allman in the at-large category, Wendell Boykins at-large, Angie Robles at-large, Robert Brown at-large, Julia Parrish, law enforcement. We respectfully request appointment of these listed individuals in their respective categories for a 1-year term, and all of these terms will be expiring June 30th, 2024.
Have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you. Our next is the Jacksonville Onslow Sports Commission. Their board of directors has considered appointments and reappointments at their March 23rd, 2023 meeting. They voted unanimously to select Shelby Deal to replace Randy Baisden. On behalf of the Jacksonville Onslow Sports Commission, I respectfully request that you consider appointment of Ms. Shelby Deal to seat C for a 3-year term to expire June 30th, 2026.
Motion.
To approve.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Our next appointment is the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. The JCPC galvanizes community leaders locally and statewide to reduce and prevent juvenile crime. Mr. Jeffrey Dusty Rhodes has provided a citizen participation application that is on file and has been certified by the clerk's office. He would like to be in seat 1, the superintendent's designee, with a term expiring June 30th, 2025. I respectfully request appointment of Jeffrey Dusty Rhodes for this seat for a 2-year term expiring in 2025.
We have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Our next appointment is the Coastal Carolina Community College Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees consists of 12 voting members and 1 non-voting student trustee, and 4 of these are appointed by the Onslow County Board of Commissioners. Mr. Joseph Henderson has informed the Board of Trustees Chairman Bundage Guy that he will be vacating his seat effective July 1st. The college has requested the Board of Commissioners consider the appointment of Mr. Robert G. Dupuis for a 4-year term beginning July 1st, 2023. He has provided a citizen participation application. It's on file and has been certified by the clerk's office. At this time, I respectfully request the board consider the appointment of Mr. Dupuy for the 4-year term beginning July 1st, 2023.
So moved.
Approved.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Our next appointment is to the Trillium Southern Regional Advisory Board. This provides a local presence in the county served to assure that each county has input into the services received by its residents by Trillium in the 24-county catchment area. Ms. Sherry Slater retired from Onslow County government and will no longer serve on this board. Ms. Carrie Sanders, Assistant County Manager, Consolidated Human Services, has provided a citizen participation application for this seat, and she qualifies under North Carolina General Statute, Section 122C-118.1B9 to serve. We respectfully request the appointment of Ms. Carrie Sanders, Onslow County Representative under North Carolina General Statute, Section 122C-118.1B9 for a 3-year term expiring June 30th, 2026.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Our next appointment is to the Richlands Planning Board, Extraterritorial Jurisdiction. The town of Richlands has respectfully requested the Board of Commissioners consider Robert Daniel Gray and Carol Eller to serve as the extraterritorial jurisdiction representatives on the Richlands Planning Board. Both have submitted a citizen participation application, which is on file and has been certified by the clerk's office. At this time, I do request that the board consider this appointment of Ms. Eller and Mr. Gray.
Motion to approve.
Motion and a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
At this time, we will go to the Richlands Board of Adjustment. This is also for the ETJ, the extraterritorial jurisdiction, but is for the Board of Adjustment. The town of Richlands has respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners consider again Mr. Robert Daniel Gray and Ms. Carol Eller to serve as the ETJ representatives on the Board of Adjustment. Both have submitted a citizen participation applications. They are on file. They have been certified by the clerk's office, and the term is for 3 years, expiring June 19th, 2026. We ask you now to consider these appointments for the Richlands Board of Adjustment.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Our final item for the evening is for the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board. The Onslow County ABC Board is comprised of 5 board members appointed by the Onslow County Board of Commissioners. Mr. Gary Dixon's term will expire June 30th, 2023. Mr. Dixon has expressed an interest in continuing to serve on this board. He's provided a citizen participation application. It's on file. It's been certified by the clerk's office. And additionally, Mr. Dixon has been unanimously recommended to serve as the chairman of the ABC Board for a 1-year term. At this time, we respectfully request you consider appointment of Mr. Gary Dixon for a 3-year term expiring June 30th, 2026, and allow him to serve as the chairman for a 1-year term expiring June 30th, 2024.
Motion.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Everybody take a deep breath. We have no consent agenda items. We can move on to the manager's comments now.
Thank you all, and I appreciate everybody being here this evening. That's all I have.
All right, we'll move to commissioner comments. I'll just start to my left. Commissioner Scott, fire away.
Okay, the last meeting that we had, I had some phone calls about, and it's about the agenda. And I don't want anybody, and I don't want to mislead anybody, and it's about the budget amendments. Every commissioner and any citizen that requested, now I got in trouble for holding up a document, but this is public record, okay? You can see, and we are aware of every budget amendment and how much the budget amendment is, okay? So I don't want anybody to think that the finance office, the county manager, or any commissioner don't know what the amendment is. What I was trying to say was, is there any way that we can put it on the agenda to where the public will know without having to request this big document? Okay, that's all I was trying to do. And I thank the finance office for giving us what you do give us. The second comment is that, and I'm not throwing out in the darts or anything else, I did not vote for the budget. And there's several reasons why I didn't. But it's my duty and it's my responsibility to vote on anything that comes before the board. And I exercise my vote tonight. And I thank you, and it's a privilege to serve you. And I thank you, and that's all I'm going to say about it.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. Commissioner Price?
Commissioner Scott, Commissioner Carpenter, and myself went to a conference on reducing overdose in Durham, North Carolina. The conference was sponsored by the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. So we kind of anticipated that it would be sharing county stories of successes in dealing with opioids. It kind of veered off left of center, way left of Joseph Stalin. And so sometimes I had to walk out some of those sessions that were, blatantly anti-American and focusing more on a woke movement and DEI and all that other stuff. So the first day I didn't get as much out of it because they talked bad about Ronald Reagan and some of my other heroes. And so I had to walk out of a couple of sessions, but that's why it had to be done. But I did get something out of the second day. I felt like it was really positive. A guy that the series Dope Sick on Hulu, it was patterned after his life. He was a doctor. And he told the story of how he craved the opioids more than anything else. And it almost led him to rob a store as a Tennessee fan wearing a University of Tennessee t-shirt in Alabama. At a CVS in Alabama, he considered robbing a CVS with a University he said he wouldn't have got out of the parking lot with a University of Tennessee t-shirt on. So, that kind of really got to me where I kind of understood how strong that craving is. He said that whenever you're dope sick like that, he had forgot his pills, that's the only thing he wanted. He didn't want to eat. He said he lost, I think it was 35, 40 pounds or something like that. And while he was going through this, but it kind of broke through and I kind of understood, how strong of a pull that addiction has on folks, and so it helped me in that sense. And I think we picked up some other things in that second day. The first day, I'd rather forget the first day. There's concern about Heinz Farm, so I want to talk about Heinz Farm again tonight. The cost that was mentioned lately was a cost of maintenance. That is a cost spread across all of our county parks. Do you know how many county parks we have, Ms. Griffin, right off the top of your head?
I'm a little tired. I might need an assist on that. How many county parks do we have, including all of them? 7 to 8.
7 or 8 county parks. That cost of maintenance is spread across all 7 or 8, which does include Heinz Farm. Okay, but it's just one of those 7 or 8. So I wanted to address the concern that you had about the cost there, because people have a right to be concerned about cost, as I am. Also, another thing that's been happening at Heinz Farm lately, they had a fishing tournament for kids. I think it was really aimed at kids under the age of 16 primarily. And they were catching catfish right and left, and kids having a good time. Hey, that's what it's all about, kids having a good time. Do yourself a favor, take a kid fishing. Have a good night.
Thank you, Commissioner Price. Commissioner Carpenter?
That was so abrupt. Okay. Ditto what he said on the North Carolina Summit on reducing overdose, except it was very educational. There were some very interesting sessions that opened my eyes and educated me on the true issue that we have, and got me more interested in how we best address the issue of how we maximize the dollars that we're getting on the settlement, from the settlement funds. I think the highlight of the last couple of weeks was the 95th birthday of General Al Gray, former Commandant of the U.S. Marine Corps. What a leader that man was. It was a real joy to see all of these people who have invested so much in the safety of our country at the event that we went to on Saturday night. Most of the commissioners here were there. Couple of things on the other that I want to update here. An item that came up in the news was the flyover that a couple of us up here had scheduled ourselves to participate in. And this article was talking about the desire for this organization to go out and discover how hog farms were polluting the local waters. And then at the end, it just had a tagline of Commissioner Carpenter and Commissioner Buchanan, or excuse me, not Buchanan, sorry about that, Paul. Commissioner Bennett and Foster were going to be participating in that. And I just want to clear the record here. I know that Royce has already done that, but there was definitely misinformation. We were misinformed of what the purpose of that event was. I was never told that we'd be looking to investigate hog farms who allegedly are polluting the waters, because I am sure that they do comply with what the state mandates that they do. And if I'd known that that was their intent, I would have originally declined the invitation to go see what the waterways were. I was really more interested in seeing, as Commissioner Foster was, what damage has been done from the storms that we've had, and also how clear cutting with the developments that we do here affect our oyster farms. That's really what I was looking for. I am totally in support of our farmers here because we have a huge agricultural county here. And so I love you farmers. I just want you to know that. Lastly, the thing I want to say is in reference to the comment that I did not vote for the budget. Yes, this is true. It's not a secret. I am learning how this all works, and I did not feel like I had the details in order to make a very sound decision on how $314 million were being spent. In difference to that, with this pool, I do know exactly where the money is going and what the benefit for it will be. So that is all that I have. Have a great week, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Carpenter. Commissioner Buchanan.
I don't have anything. Thank everybody for being here.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Bennett.
I'll make a couple of quick comments. I do want to thank the speakers that come. We really do appreciate your comments. I would submit that we had a pretty good public hearing tonight. 9 people showed up to speak, and I don't think that I don't remember another official public hearing that we've had in the last several years that actually had 9 people show up to speak. So I think the public was heard. And I also wanted to make note that today we agreed to a memorandum of understanding with Trillium. It's a public-private partnership. We enter into public-private partnerships almost every time we meet. This particular public-private partnership, we've contributed $500,000 a year to for the last 6 years. So it's not unusual for the county to be involved in a public-private partnership. It's not unusual for the county to fund a public-private partnership. And I appreciate you guys being here tonight. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Commissioner Bennett. Vice Chairman Knapp.
I'm going to try to keep my comments brief. Number one, I disagree. We did not have a public hearing, so that's my opinion. We did not have a public hearing with 9 people and that came up to speak. So let me clarify that. And I want to reiterate the reason why I voted, because to be quite honest with you, I'm just trying to be as transparent as I can. They say that we don't listen to the speakers. We do. We do listen. We do not plan the important things in the morning meeting. In fact, we planned this. It's important tonight to make sure it was on an evening meeting so some people can be here to discuss it. And I want to reiterate the fact that, we try to be as transparent as we can. And when people make suggestions about being transparent, we try to do that. And we listen, like I said earlier. Because the last thing I don't want to be is hypocritical up here and say, no, I don't want to give this to the citizens to talk about. okay? And I think it's very important. I think we're the most transparent board we've had in many years. Our county government is transparent. And when I get information that people are saying that the county commissioners are divisive, or whatever it might be, and we're trying to get along, that is simply not true. We're not divisive in the sense that we don't want each other on the board. We're divisive in the sense that we disagree on decisions. There's a difference. We leave here today after the vote, everything's back to normal. Because once a vote is taken, it moves on. And as a commissioner, you either support it or you can continue to sit there and cry about it in the corner and waste valuable time. So, you know, we lost, and I mean those of us who didn't support the pool, and let me get that straight, we support a pool, we didn't support the payment process. Let's make that very clear. It has nothing to do with the YMCA or anyone else for that matter. It's the process and what we've done and according to our budget and what we can afford and trying to anticipate possible disasters. But, you know, be careful what you hear from certain people that talk about this board when they have no idea of what's going on this board. Be careful on what kind of false information they provide out there to mislead you to think that this board is divisive. And I have several instances in mind, but I'm not going to discuss them because that is not an item to discuss. But all I'm saying is keep your ears open. If you have a question, pick up the phone and call one of the commissioners. We'll be more than happy to answer your question the best that we can. If we can't get the answer, we'll find someone who can give you the answer. And I say that because, like I said earlier, it's just some information's come to my attention, and I totally resent the fact that some people have making comments about this Board of Commissioners openly and putting out false information out that. And it was recorded. And when I heard it, I was very upset. That should not be, period. Because if somebody's doing that, they're the ones that's being decisive, or divisive, I should say. And the last thing I want to say is she has struggled through this, and I'm going to keep pumping up the county government staff and supervisory staff for the outstanding job that they've done. Sharon has been superb as a county manager. Let me make that perfectly clear. She has been great to work with. She's very smart. If you ever look at her background and her credentials, you need not say any more. Highly intelligent, highly dedicated to this county. She's proven time and time she's dedicated to this county, especially during Hurricane Florence. And I don't need to beat that dead horse again, but it's true. And there are times when Sharon and I disagree. There are times when I disagree with our attorney. There are times I disagree with Tim Foster and the rest of the members of the board. But we agree to disagree and we move on. But one thing I'm not going to tolerate, and you might think that I'm just being overprotective, I recognize someone who's doing a great job from far away as across the street, and I can tell you that Sharon has done an outstanding job. If we were to lose Sharon because she got another job offer, which I don't blame you if you got one, looking at your credentials, they're very, very, very impressive. You've worked with her. You came here because of her, our finance guy. If we lose her, we lose the most valuable asset in this county as far as I'm concerned. And I'll go on record to say that. She's highly respected, and she's a highly respected professional. And let me re-emphasize that word, professional. The decisions that she makes in hiring Carrie Sanders, for example, I support that decision 100% because there's no other better qualified. And the other decisions that she has made to surround herself with talented people. That's what a leader does. They surround themselves with people, and she promotes the fact that she wants those people to look good. And when they look good, they in turn make her look good. So never question her integrity. I get upset with that. And I get upset, too, that somebody was questioning her salary. She's a county manager, folks. She deserves every penny she gets. And she is underpaid, under the average of county managers. She can go to any law firm she wants. She can start her own practice. But yet she stays here because she's dedicated to Onslow County and the people. And I want to go on record saying that, and I applaud you. I applaud you tremendously. I got the deepest respect for you as a county manager and as a friend, even though we don't agree at times, and we've kind of raised our voices at each other. But what a valuable asset. And I just wanted to throw that out there for you and just to let you know how lucky this county is with the staff we have. We have a great clerk in Julie. We have assistant county managers like Janelle. We've got a county attorney that, believe me, he's as conservative as they come, and he is very, very, very thorough in what he does. And he's not afraid to tell us if we're stepping out of line. So I just wanted to say a big thank you to you guys very much. You guys mean the world to me. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I hope we continue in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Knapp. We appreciate your brevity, as you mentioned before you started.
I call to order.
We'll see how you come out.
Yeah, let's don't even talk
Never
about
going to put the timer on
Don't even
me
talk
there.
about that, Pastor.
Julie,
think
put
it's
the timer on.
necessary. I think it's necessary. After you have meetings like this, lots of conversation is finish on a good note. You know, a little bit of humor about stuff, and one of it is unfortunately in our fishing tournament over at Hines Farm, we did have one individual that we had to have removed. He was about 6'1", and he had dyed his hair black, and we just knew there was no 12-year-old with a mustache. So Commissioner Price had to leave the fishing tournament because he was well over the age of 16.
Well, I knew it wasn't me.
So the usual suspect was too short. But we've heard a lot of good stuff tonight. We've had a lot of good conversation, and we come back with some of the things we like to end on. One thing is that I thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity to go to the 95th birthday celebration of our Commandant, 29th Commandant, is that correct?
Yeah, 29th.
29th Commandant of the
Yeah.
United States Marine Corps. And I made a comment there that, you know, I love athletics and watching folks play. And I remember growing up, you know, everybody my age were running around the yard playing Army. Sorry to offend any of you sailors and Marines out there, but, you know, everything was Army back then when you're little. And everybody was a sergeant. We watched all those movies because those were great things to watch, because those were great American heroes that made a world of difference. And it was really neat to sit in that room on Saturday night surrounded by great American heroes. And I appreciate that. Anybody that's listening on G10, every time this clip runs, I just want you to stand up and clap for the farmers. As Commissioner Carpenter mentioned, there ain't no way you're going to get me to be upset with our farmers. Number one, I love bacon.
We know.
And that's good stuff. And I appreciate what farmers do. They put in more than 40 hours a week to make sure we get stuff to the shelves and we get things taken care of that not always or on everybody's table there. And then I'll finish with this last thing, and I'll let everybody get out of here. Two things, actually, I'm sorry. The voting, our ladies here are talking about the voting. I still think we need to work on getting more people out to vote, but I did some research and had some people do some research on our voter turnout. And we have folks on our voting rolls that haven't voted in a long time that are still on those rolls. Those rolls get scrubbed on the third, on the odd year. And Onslow County is the second leading county in the state of North Carolina behind Robeson County or Robeson County, however you want to pronounce it, with the number of people still on our voting rolls that have not participated in years. And that is simply because a lot of our military personnel will move here, register to vote, so they can vote here when it comes to the presidential elections and things like that. And then they get orders, and they have to leave. Most do not remove themselves from the voting rolls in Onslow County, and they end up in whatever other state they go to, and they register to vote there. For those that think that is illegal, it is not illegal to be registered in North Carolina and Maryland, but it is illegal if you vote in both of those. So we have to have our rolls taken care of to make sure we are where we're supposed to be. So when you take our numbers off, In the last election, we did go from 37% in participation to over 47% in participation, which in effect, we'd still like to have a lot more, and we need to find out and see some things that we can do to get more voter participation. I think that is extremely important. Public hearing, we still have a contract in front of us that has to be negotiated. Someone already mentioned one item that I will bring to the attention that may have to be in there. And if we get to that point and we're ready for a contract, we can come back to this room as we are negotiating that contract and possibly have, if this board desires, to have a special meeting to hear from the public or a public hearing on that. So that opportunity is still there. I'll say as I voted to support this idea, I also want everyone to know that we've heard for years of the desire for a multi-sports complex or multi-purpose building and sports fields in Onslow County. That needs to be the next on the agenda as a effort between us and the city of Jacksonville to bring that to fruition. And we quit talking about it and get it done. And I think Commissioner Buchanan has been talking about that for a long time. So with that all being said, thanks for coming out tonight. We appreciate your input.
Motion to adjourn.
We are getting ready to have that. I want you to come speak because I got my start coming to the podium and speaking to the commissioners, and it is a daunting task to stand up there and speak to people because it's not easy. Have the courage to come to the microphone and speak to us on what you believe. That being said, I'm shorter than that, not in height, but in length in my talking. Motion to adjourn.
You what?
So moved. We're adjourned.
Yeah.
You went way over.